Great. Well, for people who are joining the live stream, this is a continuation of our discussion about the future of Dataset. And we're looking at a bunch of details about how Dataset will work in the future. Now, Chris, I was just in a cloud development meeting and we were just looking at, just talking about saving of this. We have this concept of a save persistent, what is it called? We just invented a name for this. In other words, taking a data set and when you cloud publish the notebook that contains the data set, also publishing a separate cloud object that is essentially the backing information for that data set. Right?
Yep.
So I think Matt Kay is going to project manage making that happen, I believe.
Okay.
But that's going to involve you and Shadi and anybody else that you know of who has backing data like that.
Okay, good.
Okay. Yeah, Ethan on our live stream is saying, please test this with with data sets with lots of data in them. Pascal VOC, I don't know what that is. Should be a good data set example. Would love to see data sets backed with Spark and other such things. Yeah, the front end can't handle data of like 10 gigabytes of data. Yes, that's true. I mean, this is something we hope to do going forward. I mean, I think, Chris, once this round of stuff is done, we need to look at what's happening with the file-backed data sets. That was exactly what we planned, and database-backed data sets.
Yeah, who's working on that?
Well, the file-backed data sets, Leonid had developed all this stuff like 2 or 3 years ago, but it was never deployed. So the main issue is, how do you get a file-backed data set? Okay. So in other words, let's say you've got a 5 gigabyte data set. Where did it come from? If it came from some giant CSV file then the first question is, how does that import work? And does the data set look at the thing in its raw form without importing, or does it pre-process it? See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And what Leonid had done is he built this thing which does processing of big arrays in chunks, but I believe that the innards of the big array have to be in MX file format or something. Okay, so it's unclear what happens, whether that's an acceptable thing to pre-process the CSV file into chunks of MX file stuff so that it can be processed, because that can be done offline, obviously, and in parallel and so on, or whether one needs to be picking up the raw MX, raw file. Now, similarly with databases, we now have all of this database technology, and I don't see any reason we shouldn't be able to use that automatically within a data set. In other words, retrieving stuff on demand to fill in pieces of the data set. That makes sense?
Yeah, who's working on that?
That's the group, Leonid, Carlo, Ricardo.
Okay.
Under Todd. Okay. And those are the people you should talk to. I think that's probably the nearer term thing to do. And the very interesting thing to do is to have, I mean, that's non-trivial, because operations that are going to be done in dataset, only some of them are compilable to run on the server side. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For files, that's less of an issue. And for Spark, that's less of an issue, because we can actually have Wolfram engines running on the Spark nodes, right? But we looked at Spark, and Dylan B had a preliminary version of that, and I think it would be worth. I think, who does he work with now? Is he working with Todd now? I'm not sure, or perhaps with Joel. But it would be worth finding out what's happened to that. And I did see that on his roadmap still. I don't know what's happened with it. I think we just didn't know how to deploy it, because, by the time we, people have existing Spark installations, and we need to understand how they will actually use this stuff. Unless we think that what's going to happen is they're going to unfurl a Spark installation just for this, but I think that's implausible because you've got to have machines and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to work here.
Okay. So after our discussion yesterday, that first item is something that's already implemented, but I was going to disable it because I can't implement it efficiently if the right-hand side has cyclic a value. But if the right-hand side is a single value, it can be implemented. So what this is just general pattern matching in paths.
Great, do it. And look, if you're really worried about what happens in the case where the thing is cyclic, then just produce a message and say, tough luck.
Yeah. No, we have to, because it can't do that efficiently.
Okay. That's fine. I mean, just say, can't be cyclic. I mean, I think it's going to be such a, it's going to be so minor compared to the non-cyclic case.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't really make sense in this case anyway to have cyclic colors there. It's not all that useful.
That's really nice to be able to do this, because that's a test that allows you. So, okay, that's the local IC. So that function, that isn't just local to that thing. That could be global to the stuff in the column. Is that true? You had those 3 slots that you were filling in there. Is that correct?
Well, in this case, no. It's only in this case it only matches on the path, right? It's just a pattern match to the paths as they're coming through. So in this case, any path that begins with
okay, but what about the value?
Something.
What about coloring the value?
This is just pattern matching. It's not, general function application to something. It's just pattern.
No, I understand that, but what we need is a thing that allows you to color.
You can color by value on the right-hand side. You can put a function there which responds to the value.
How? That was the thing that has 3 slots. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, so that's cool. So if I say here, oops. How do I get to the mass, for example, here?
Oh, not there.
Okay, so I want to go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to color pink every planet more massive than the Earth. Okay, let's see if I can do that. All right, so what I want to say.
So that doesn't involve anything on the left-hand side other than just picking out the mass column.
But I want to color the whole planet. Right. Okay, so tell me how to do that.
Oh, God.
So hash mass will pick out the mass column, right?
No.
Why not?
What you want is just list all comma mass. That picks out the mass column.
Okay.
So just start by coloring that cyan or something, and just to verify that that's correct.
What is happening? Oh, there we go. Okay. Fine.
Right. So now if you want to color everything more massive than the Earth,
I want to color the whole of the more massive than the Earth. Everything in the Earth section.
Okay.
But let's start just with this. Okay, so here, what I'm imagining is if hash 1 greater than Earth mass, right, then pink, otherwise none. Let's see if I'm right. Magnificent. Okay.
Right.
That's nice. And that's, by the way, a decent example to use. But now I want to know, how do I do it so that I color the whole of the Jupiter section?
So the third argument is the entire data set, and the second argument is the path. So,
all right, so what I want to do then is I want to say, in the entire data set,
wouldn't this be just removing mass from?
yeah, it would be, but I don't know how. Okay, so then if #3 sub most of #2 sub mass.
I think you want first of #2.
No, I want to remove that.
You just want the planet, right?
I want the name of the planet, yes. What do you know? Okay, how do I get the headers colored as well?
Header background. You mean the row headers?
Yeah.
It'll be a similar thing with header background.
Okay, why didn't it color those headers there?
Because you have
This is a nice mechanism, by the way. This is a nice mechanism.
Yeah. So it doesn't cover the header background doesn't color subheaders. It only colors the specific one that you give a path to. So
I think there might need to be a mechanism for that.
yeah.
Okay.
I can look into that.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. By the way, on our live stream, SWSH is talking about Apache Arrow, which we have looked at, but I would really like to understand what the actual architecture of that might be. In other words, what would you actually do? In other words, because Dataset has got to go requesting data, and most of the operations of Dataset are not readily compilable. Well, unless there's a Wolfram engine running inside the Apache Arrow system, which there could be, then what this would have to do is it would communicate with remote Wolfram engines to go get this work done. I mean, we've had internally for years stuff with Hadoop, and I think now Spark also for doing that for our internal analytics, but I think we've never packaged it. Anyway, it's an interesting topic, and if we can, Devin, maybe you can pick that up as something. I think Sushma has it on the list
Sure,
of projects we're looking at. I'm not sure what the state of it is.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, items displayed. And we're not calling that max items, are we? We're not choosing to reuse the max items option for this.
We haven't talked about that. What functions use max items?
Lots, like web image search and so on, like text search.
Right.
I think there's an argument that we could reuse max items for this.
Probably, yeah.
Seems highly relevant to me. Yeah, this seems highly relevant to me.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, let's plan on max items for this.
Okay.
Now, we're going to have to generalize a little bit here because we're using... Okay, so this is all... So this is basically... Oh my gosh, what is this creature here?
It's a horizontal scroll bar.
It's horrifying.
Why? It's wonderful.
I would like some kind of mini map to see roughly what's going on before I start poking around. But look, right here we're talking about the max items thing. What's automatic?
It just uses a heuristic to decide how many items to show.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
So if you have limits on the first, I'm talking about the last example there. If you have limits on the first two levels, you get scroll bars. On internal levels, you either get the 63 total button, or for elided columns, you get that thing. There's no room to put a total in there, but if you hover over that button, it shows you that. If you hover over the arrow. So it would be really nice to have internal scroll bars, but we don't have the technology right now to support that. It would require using nested grids, and we don't have a way of nesting grids nicely so that they think things align.
I'm not totally convinced about. I mean, I'd be happy to page through things. I'm not sure that scroll bars are better than paging.
Well,
in other words, in this case here, wherever you had it, this case here, I'd be perfectly happy to see something at the top here that says 3 more and then page into it. See what I'm saying? I'd be actually happier than the scroll bar. I don't even know what the scroll bar means. I mean, the scroll bar means there's 1 left.
Well, in this case, there's 1. There could be any number. So when you say, so you click 3 left, what do you see? The whole thing, or just what you've exposed, or what? I'm not sure what.
I understand what you're saying, but like here, if we go to a multi-page, let me make a multi-page thing. Okay, so let's say I say data set range of 1,000 or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I could have, what is that scroll bar doing there? Oh God, I don't like that. I would prefer to page through it.
Well, you can page through it by clicking, yeah.
No, I mean what we've had previously, if I go back to a previous version, okay? What we have, oh, actually, I've just done it for another reason here. What we have is this, which I like. I mean, what's wrong with this? I prefer this.
Are you talking about the thing at the bottom?
Yes.
So we eliminated that because the buttons at the end of the scroll bar are the same functionality, and that bottom thing conflicts with the horizontal scroll bar.
Which you just put at the top.
Yeah. But I mean, why have that if you can click the ends of the scroll bar? It's the same functionality.
I just prefer this as a piece of UX. I think of it as paging, whereas this is, I think of this as I hate. It's like an iframe thing with a bunch of pokey stuff in it. Do we have any designers in this meeting?
No, we do not.
I don't like this. And I mean, the 1,000 total, which is using up that whole giant thing at the bottom to just say that, seems wrong. I mean, I really like this.
Well, I can restore it. Do you want to get rid of the buttons on the end of the scroll bar?
No, we can leave those too. I mean, I think it's convenient. They're both convenient things to do. I don't think of this as scrolling. I think of it as paging. I mean, look, the fact is the performance is not good enough for the scroll bar to really be the interesting thing. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here. I mean, I like being able to page. And given that we've got that space at the bottom, I don't see why you shouldn't have something that's paging like this.
Yeah, okay.
Now, in terms of the top, so when is this happening? Because that's a top scroll bar.
It happens if you limit the number of columns.
But what happens if we have both? Because on the one hand, the left bar seems vertical, but the paging seems horizontal.
Right. I agree. That's confusing.
What do you mean? So
these arrows are going the wrong way. These arrows, if we're going to do this, we've got to have these arrows go up and down.
Well, it depends how we visualize this. These chunks, are they?
Well, we've given ourselves no choice. These chunks are vertical based on the fact there's a vertical scroll bar here. So I'm saying?
Yeah. So if there are both scroll bars, horizontal and vertical, and we page, which direction does it go?
You can get
I would much prefer, what's that?
Change all to 4 in that and reevaluate. You get both scroll bars.
So what would page do? Go vertically or horizontally?
No, we got to have two paging things here. Well, I admit that in this case, but then this being down there is kind of hopeless. I mean, that's if you're going to have this, you've got to have some kind of opener here, just like you do for this case, where you're, well, maybe it didn't do it in this case, but for this case, where you have one of these, where it opens or drills down to that.
What if it's an enormous data set? Do you want to show all of them?
No, you don't. Well, but what do you do in this case if it's enormous?
It'll scroll.
I see, it'll scroll because it's gone to the next page, and then it scrolls on the next page.
Yeah.
I really don't like this very much. I mean, I understand the argument for it. I just think it's not very nice. I mean, I would like to see a yeah. Steve on our live stream is pointing out that it would be nice to be able to resize by dragging a corner. We completely agree. I mean, that's what table view does. I mean, that we would like to have, but whether we have, well, I mean, you're convincing me that this is the only feasible UX given the way this is working, but it would be lovely to be able to say, you're saying 8 total, but up here, you're not saying how many total there are, and you should.
Right, this is almost a dimensions, like 4 by 2 of, right?
Well, but alternatively, you could say, I mean, that 8 total is referring to those keys. And I don't really know why this bar extends over here. I would have expected that the 8 total would be in that column. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, but
because here.
So you're just suggesting there should be a divider that divides that into 2, into the 8 total and a blank to the right of it. It's got to be a square array.
No, I understand that. But you're right here. I see. You're saying this represents more rows, basically 8 total rows.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, where does the thing that says that there are however many total columns go? Right? Because you really want to say there are more columns, and you really want to say over here there's more stuff. You would like to say 8 total right here. Except you don't want to do that because you don't want to use the space.
And I put it okay for the scroll bar. Yeah. If it's an internal thing, it says it when you hover over the button.
But why not using some sort of dimensions notation? So at the bottom we say 8 columns total times 3 rows total, something.
Well, we could say 8 total rows, 3 semicolon, 3 total columns.
Yep.
Or even better, rows 1 to 4 of 8, semicolon, columns 1 to 2
Yes.
of 3.
Yep.
I think so. That would be good. Now, you know, I might argue that we could have paging buttons there as well, right? As we just said. In addition to this, in addition to these, it somehow feels cognitively different, paging down here versus scrolling up here.
So for both columns and rows, or?
That's what I'm thinking. Where the rows are vertically up and down. So this would read something like rows Okay, so there would be a down arrow. I'm going to put it as a V here. Rows 34 to of 1,000. Okay, and then we're going to have a I'm just going to, for some reason, I'm going to do one of these. Okay, a wedge to indicate that that's up, and then columns ba 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 of ba ba ba.
So I think that's fine. It's going to be a problem if the data set is very narrow.
Then punt on it. If the data set is very narrow, drop all the words. Okay, go down to the point where you've dropped all the words.
Yeah.
If it's very narrow, perhaps you don't need to explain anything about columns.
Well, it could be very narrow because you're only showing one column of many.
Yeah.
I see.
I wonder whether we need the words rows and columns here. I think that that visually might work.
Yeah.
Try it. Okay.
So you only have one button there. You don't have a go to beginning or end button, just the paging buttons.
Well, I think it might be nice to have a beginning and end with a bar underneath it. I think that might be nice. Try it. Try it and ask some designer to
Yeah.
Okay.
Another question. In this example you have right now, the original data was a vector. However, it's represented as a table.
Right, as a multi-column.
Yeah.
Right. So is that a case in which would present also controls for columns? I guess not.
No. That's a reason why this by not talking about rows is probably a good thing in this case. Right. By just having you know just use the that to deal with this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so another thing, appearance elements, right? Do you support that? So we just get rid of the some of these pieces, right? If you support appearance elements, you get rid of the scroll bars if you don't want them.
Then okay, yeah. Yeah.
Because I can imagine cases where only the paging is relevant. So Brian on the live stream is saying, please provide an option to suppress the row column annotation in the scroll bar. Annotation as in listing how many total there are, for example. That's not a bad suggestion. I mean, that would be an appearance element, I think.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine cases where the total number is like really irrelevant, or you don't, you know, you're kind of trying to hide the fact that you're going to have to go through so many or something. This is nice. This is going to be a nice UX thing, and we've got the space down there in that bar.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. What's this? I don't understand why you can't put a little 3 in there with a greater than sign.
Well, it's going to make it wider. What if it's 300?
What about put a 3 underneath? Oh, what if it's 300?
And it's trivial to do. I didn't do it because I thought we wanted it to be compact.
Could we see if Jeremy can join us?
Sure. Yeah, I can give him a call.
I understand if you have 3,000 elements here or something. I do like the way this looks. And by the way, you really need a hover effect as well as the tooltip if you can get it.
It doesn't? Okay, I thought it did. It's really small. It's hard to see, and even if there is a hover effect, it's going to be hard to see.
Yeah. Now, is that iconography consistent? Yes, it is. That iconography is consistent with this iconography.
Yeah.
I mean, you could put a number there if it isn't too big. Or is that silly? Hey, here's another question. When you start off the data set, you should be able to tell it to display by default in this drilled form, right?
So I do actually have an option for that, which I provided for testing, but I haven't exposed it. It's called
I think
path.
it might be useful. What's that?
It's called path.
Not a great name for it.
There is already a path option.
Obviously, which is completely inappropriate for this. Is that Jeremy?
Billy.
Oh, okay. We're looking at data set, and you're being thrown into the middle of a kind of complicated discussion.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, what's going on there?
Oh, let's not rewind the whole thing. Okay. We'll come back to this. Okay, just stay alert.
Yep.
Okay, what's this?
I've hidden everything in the moons column.
And so, what is that doing?
I'll click it. Whoop, that is not right. Oh, well, okay.
Oh, it is right. It is right. It's doing the right thing there.
Yes, but so I haven't implemented this yet. I think there needs to be a difference between drill down and that exposure button. The exposure button, I think, should show you everything, maybe with a scroll bar. Drill down should pay attention to whatever you specified in items displayed.
Wait a minute. Drill down goes to a different sub-data set that is like a drilled page, and it's just a completely different thing that you're displaying.
No. But so if you click moons or if you click that exposure button, they both drill down to the same place.
Fine. Okay, but so that's.
But I'm proposing that if you click that exposure button, it should ignore whatever you specified for items displayed and show you everything at that level.
I understand. How do you go back from that? So in particular, what that would do, if I said all instead of 0 there, then that would show the moons columns.
Yeah.
Okay. So the key thing is up here. It isn't really down here. The key thing is you lost columns that had headers up here, right?
Yeah. So you think that exposure hour should go up there?
I'm thinking maybe. I'm thinking that this bar, I think that will be less obscure. That what that's doing. So let me just understand. So the problem is this is inconsistent, okay? Because this is a drill down, right?
No.
No, it's an
an
exposure. Look, it's a drill down. It drilled to Jupiter's moon.
Yeah, it drills down, but it also shows you everything on that level, maybe with a scroll bar.
I understand that
Yeah.
point. I understand that point. What I'm saying is that this is drill down and exposure. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You want this case here
to be the same thing. So the horizontal and vertical exposure buttons work the same way. What I'm saying is if you click moons to drill down, that it should still respect whatever you specified for items displayed.
So in other words, if you drill down to moons, I should still see the 63 total here. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Because the moons is only drilling down to the all moons level. The 63 total is drilling down to the Jupiter moons.
In
By the way,
that
why?
case, yeah.
Wait. Why is that saying all greater than? Oh, I see. Because that's just Jupiter moons. Okay. By the way, is it obvious that there shouldn't be a trailing chevron in that path down Jupiter greater than moons?
Well, there never has been.
I understand. I just don't know if there should be.
To show that it drills down into that section.
Yes.
I think I need to pay further attention to see what else is going on before I answer that.
I like what's there now, because if you just replace the chevron with a comma, you get what you need.
Fine. Okay.
To use the syntax.
Okay. So what's the issue here? The issue here is that this drill down does that.
So right now you got a scroll bar, and that scroll bar thumb is wrong. And I think instead,
that's crazy.
That's
crazy.
It show you everything, and all the columns that were hidden.
Yes, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, in other words, it's not compatible with these, right? Yeah, it shouldn't keep itself closed, just as this doesn't keep itself closed.
But then the question is, if you click moons, what should happen? Should that also show you everything, or should it?
I think it should leave the thing. I think it should leave it with closure, with closedness, because, well, it's got to have if it's got to do this, it's got to have.
No, it's got this. Now this is top level, so now it has a scroll bar instead of an exposure button. The thumb is wrong on the scroll bar.
Okay, so the question is, should it auto open? I don't think it should. I think it should leave it with whatever is. I think it should leave it like this.
Why? I guess I'm sort of expecting. Oh.
Sorry, Billy.
Yeah, I guess I'm sort of expecting that when you click that vertical bar, it would appear like the thing below it. So you'd see like the mass and radius. Why does it do the other thing? Is that intentional?
Because it's not implemented. I think that's the way it should work.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're all agreeing that's the way it should work.
Right.
We're agreeing.
Yes, that's the way the exposure button should work. The question is, what should drill down do?
What should this drill down from the header do?
Yes. Should it do the same thing, or should it respect what you specified for items?
Well, okay. So one of the issues is, given this state, do we give people a way to show everything from this state? Right. If they want to expand this, obviously, if we're going to give them a dragger down there, right, a resize handle, then they can do it that way. But right now, there's no way for them to get the thing resized. Which is bad. I mean, one possibility would be to have a one of those maximize buttons on the right of the scroll bar.
Which shows everything, or which adds an increment?
Well,
you probably want to just add some to it.
it could go to the width of the screen, could show everything it can fit on the screen.
Well, what about for the vertical scroll bar?
No, it shouldn't work then. I think that would be a thing. Maybe it should be a thing that has, expander pushing outwards, horizontally associated with the horizontal scroll bar to push out to the width of the screen.
You mean just...
You know what? This is stupid. I mean, why aren't we just showing people as much as we can? I mean, if it's going to go bonkers and go wider than the screen, the scroll bar is going to pull it in. But otherwise, just open it. I mean, why would you want to not open it? If it fits on the screen, there's horizontal real estate there. I mean, the thing could be in some array, right? It could be in a list and there might not be horizontal real estate. Assume that there is horizontal real estate. I say just open it as much as you can.
As much as you can, you mean as much as will fit?
Yeah, as much as will fit in the horizontal real estate you have available. And anything beyond that, you've got to scroll anyway. Now, the only issue is, how do you know how much horizontal real estate you have? And if the data set is in a list, that could be complicated.
Oh, I don't even, yeah. But I mean, you're saying that you essentially are going to ignore items displayed, right? So what's the point of items displayed in the first place? Maybe we shouldn't even have items displayed for columns.
Wait. You're saying, I see. You're saying the only reason there's elision is because there's an items displayed specification. Well, my guess is you should respect that, but really the issue is that you've got to be able to say, do you want the items displayed to be definitively 0, or do you want it to be 0 unless you drilled, right? It's a 0 unless you drill. See what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay, the question is it 0 at first, or is it always 0? Right now, you just say it's 0. I had forgotten that this came from the max items option, right? So if it didn't come from max items, if it came from just restricting size on the screen, obviously on drilling it should open as much as it can. Do we agree?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the case where you've artificially restricted it. Okay. And the question is, should the artificial restriction carry through, or should it unfurl itself when you drill down? And you could want either behavior, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think more likely you want it to unfurl, but I don't think it's super obvious.
I mean, if, for example, you drill down to the mass column, if you specified 4 planets, you presumably only want to see 4 planets when you drill down to mass.
Absolutely.
So
the question is, no, it shouldn't unfurl. But the question is, when you specifically press an unfurl button for a particular row or column, okay?
You're talking about the show more, or the XX total button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the button here.
We agree on that.
No. Look. In this case here, this thing here.
Yeah.
That was a 0 there, right? That's why you're getting this, right? If I'd said 1 here, I would have had 1 column already displayed, right?
Right.
Okay.
I think we've already agreed that should show everything when you click that. The only remaining question is what happens with drill down.
Okay, well, given my initial statement would be that given that you requested the closing, leave the closing. That's what I would suggest for right now.
When you drill down.
When you do drill down.
Okay.
But I might change my mind after I've actually used it.
Yeah.
Okay. Top level.
We've already gone over that.
Okay. For rows with no items, oh gosh.
Yeah, this is just an improvement in the formatting.
Oh, I see here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just better. Yep.
So the syntax does not yet support giving a different number of items displayed for different branches of the tree. You can only specify by level.
How would you even imagine doing for different branches? So you'd have to give an association or something. What would you do?
Well, it would work
see.
just like other options.
Yeah, just like background and so on. Where
all A1, all B3.
Okay, fine. So
Yeah.
it has this. It would have the same character of being able to have direct addressability.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not going to get that into 12.1.
Fine. Hidden items. What is this? Oh boy.
So there's interactive behavior. You can click those pluses to expose things. You can right click.
Is this for playing bingo or what?
It's useful if you have a data set which has a big graphic, you don't want it to expand the data set, you can just hide that individual item. And if you right click a column header, you can hide a column. So there's that interactive behavior.
Where? Right click a column header.
Well, like a one click, right click that, you can hide that column.
Didn't work.
Didn't hide. Yeah.
Coolosaurus. I mean, that's nice.
And
and
hidden items.
Graphic design. It's very plussy.
Well, right. So if you want to be able to expose individual items, there's got to be a plus in every one. The alternative would be just to put the plus in the header. But then
in the case where you did it by closing like that, I would say yes. I don't think I want to.
Well, but what if you want to just expose a single item in that row?
And that column.
And that column.
Hover effect, though. It doesn't need to show the plus immediately. Like imagine like slightly darker gray, but it hovers with a plus sign.
Right. Hey, I'll be right back, guys. Keep talking. Do you want to share your screen for a minute, Chris? I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Okay. So what were you suggesting, Jeremy?
Well, the plus shows up on hover, but isn't there ahead of time. That way the noise isn't there. You'll just see one plus at a time.
I see.
But we'd need some obvious background color that means hidden, you know, like if it were a darker gray than say the column headings, then maybe, or we have some color or something that means hidden cell. That could work. Excel does something like this, but I forget how it works.
Okay. I mean, you can explicitly specify the background color of an item. What if one of those is hidden?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of nice to have things hidden and still have the continuity of the background.
I almost want it to be a little caret instead, and then like the caret appears on hover, and then you click it, and it's like you're opening a drop down sort of. But then I feel like it only makes sense. That only makes sense in like the header or the far left vertical bar. Could we use? Would it be too weird to use like an eyeball where it's like, you know, you're hiding and showing?
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
okay.
Did you figure it all out?
Yeah, Billy's suggesting we should use eyeball icons.
Yeah.
Okay, that's you've degenerated here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeremy, you have been suggesting something. I mean, I think plussing the whole column is silly. I agree that you could do something on hover I think, whoops, that's not what I wanted. I right click, I say hide column. Okay, so I think putting a plus up there makes sense, but I don't see any point in having pluses all the way down. What do other people think there?
Do you think it makes sense to be able to expose hidden items, individual hidden items?
Sure, but, excuse me, on mouse over, you can show them, right?
Yeah. I think that's fine. Jeremy had suggested the background color should change to show you that it's hidden.
I agree.
You have to tell the difference between hidden and missing. So I'm not sure how you do that ahead of time.
Yeah. The thing I don't like,
cross-hatching would be a good metaphor for hidden.
Does it conflict with the cloud loading cross-hatching, or does it fit right in there? Because I feel like it's sort of, because that's sort of what that means. It's there's something.
Yeah, I mean, we
there,
might need.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing I don't like about a different background is it destroys the continuity of the background, and you've got a different background for hidden things, which.
You know what? With respect to cross-hatching, what I realize is when we have remote data coming in, we will need that kind of cross-hatching. So it'll have to be a different cross-hatching, or something. I mean, I don't know. Design folk, what do you think we should do? I mean, I agree we need to not have this look like missing. It needs to be that it is absent, it's closed.
Could we maybe thicken up the borders so that way it's sort of like folded in on itself? So if the edges were coming together, it would maybe appear.
You know what? I've got a simple idea.
The
a
whole
little
point
gray dot. Dot, 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 dot will be a lot less distracting than plus signs.
And in the headers, plus or dot?
Plus.
Okay.
That's what I think. In other words, anything you explicitly closed, okay, we have various comments on our live stream here, including don't imitate Excel where it's really easy to miss hidden columns. I have noticed that, yes. I mean, having dots would help that.
Yeah, like I just tried it in Excel also after Jeremy had commented, and it's like I'm still having trouble unhiding the column that I hid.
Mm-hmm. Well, the question is whether the cell borders, whether these horizontal cell lines continue, or whether we get rid of the horizontal cell lines and just have dots. I suspect it'll look okay to just have dots.
Dots are much better. I just mocked that and it looks much better than pluses.
Can I see? Did you?
Yeah, I'll mail you.
Okay. Brian is commenting. Okay. Okay, so then, oops, let me just set this up. Yeah, it's pretty nice actually. That looks nice.
Okay. I like it.
Should it hover to plus then? Or what should the hover be?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you're showing an actual value there, which is fine, I think, on hover. But it should hover. Why not have the thing hover to plus, which indicates that there's an action you can take by clicking it, and then have it hover with the value.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Have it tooltip the value. Okay. So max items and hidden items. Okay, so you're affirmatively hiding. I guess that's right. I guess that's the right thing to do.
Same thing, but you don't have to specify true or false.
Okay, right. That's using your drill down to get to a 3. I don't understand. If I just did the 3 there, would that hide everything that has a key of 3?
Yes.
Okay. Slightly wild, but perhaps useful. Okay, what's this now?
That's just syntax for rows and columns.
Okay, now if you were to hide something in the middle, would we have a plus for the thing hidden in the middle? I guess we would.
Yeah, evaluate the next one.
That seems okay and better than a dot. A dot could mean something completely different.
Oh, wait a minute. You're suggesting that should be a
I'm saying anything you affirmatively hide is a plus. But if there is implied hiding, like a whole column's worth of stuff, the thing other than the head of the hiding, like the column header, should be dotted. That's what I'm saying.
So what if you interactively, okay, so right-click the 3 on that one and hide it.
This thing here.
Yeah,
okay.
Hide that.
Okay, now there's going to be a plus and a bunch of dots.
And now you click a dot in the middle. That dot changes to a plus. Well,
on hover, it changes to a plus.
Okay, and then
if you explicitly hide it, it stays as a plus, I think.
Okay.
If you profoundly don't want the plus, you can always hide and unhide, and you only have a mouse, you can hide and unhide the whole column, and it'll go back to a dot.
Okay.
Okay, what does that do?
This is just illustrating if you can use false in order to make an exception to.
It's a little weird, but it's okay. Okay.
Okay. Right, you've seen that. You've seen that. You've seen interactivity. Yeah, the next one.
Okay, what's this going to be?
Right, so I've hidden the moons column, and I still show the structure under the moons column.
I see, you interactively hid that column. So I could interact. So in this case, we know that that's going to be a plus and a bunch of dots.
Right. The point is, I haven't hidden all the structure. It hasn't. The whole thing hasn't collapsed down to nothing, which makes it possible to show things that are there.
What do people think about that? In other words, you could do the same thing that you're doing with the mass column and just, I mean, Jeremy, is it easy for you to mock dotting this creature? Or do you have to press a dot a large number of times to do that?
Yeah, I can dot that. I mean, I would think a common case would be you just want to hide it though, and you don't want to expose all that structure. So maybe you want to expose one piece and you shortcut it by, hiding the whole column. I think more likely you just want to hide the whole column. Where
I would think so too. I don't understand why you'd need to see that structure.
Yeah.
If you want to see that structure, why don't you hide the subcolumns?
Okay, this is going to be expensive to implement, but well, that's fine.
We're not sure it's right. I mean, look, I'm not sure it's right to change what you've done.
So the way it works now is whenever it encounters an item, it just says, am I hidden or not? And it replaces it with a plus if it is. If it's going to actually hide the whole column, then it has to restructure the output of the data set in order to do that, which is a lot more programming.
Okay, hold on. What are you saying? You're saying right now, you are simply asking for every given item, is it hidden or not?
Right, which doesn't change the structure of the output grid. Whereas if it's going to hide the whole column, it actually changes the structure. That's why it's a bigger task to implement.
Live stream is saying, I think you need an option to hide the hidden rows columns, so only the requested rows columns are shown.
In other words, hide everything but show the ones I want to show.
Well, I think that's what you have with that false mechanism. But I think
I mean, you
there's
can.
a question here that you might want the labels to be shown, but dots in the. But could you get that? Yes, you can get that. You can get that just fine. I mean, if I click that and now I hide this, and I hide this, then I'm in great shape.
Yeah.
Oops, what the heck happened there?
Oh, right. So
that's a bug.
Well, it's not a bug. So the way it works now is if everything in a column is hidden, then the column is hidden. So it just hides the whole thing.
I don't think that's right. I think if you hide that sub-column, you shouldn't be hiding the outer column. Right? I mean, I just hid the radius column. I didn't hide the moons column.
Yeah.
Which is an outer, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But I think I would be, I mean, if it's really an implementation horror right now to turn the moons thing into a pure, dotting for each row, I wouldn't worry about that yet. But I think the thing we just saw is wrong. Jeremy or Billy or anybody, do you have any counter comments on this?
I agree. I was getting distracted by the moon names. Like it doesn't say names at the top. So then how do you, I mean, I guess you right click, but you know what I mean?
To do what?
I guess I'm just wondering why it isn't, the first column isn't labeled.
Well, it isn't really a column. Those are keys, you see, for the rows. Then it's not a column. We could have a differently structured data set where it actually is a column.
It might help for orientation to mark these cells, like perhaps I'm thinking of a diagonal. Like
what?
Yes, so this cell that Billy was referring to, the one that is right under moons.
This one here.
That cell, if that cell had something, it would represent like this is drilling to a deeper level.
What happens when you press that? Nothing.
Right. So imagine that had a diagonal from north west to southeast. Same thing for the main one.
That should actually drill down if you click. It didn't. The problem is there's no target there, and it may be hard to hit. That's another discussion item.
But I was thinking.
No, I did successfully drill down there.
Yeah.
What the heck is that?
That's the keywords.
I'm completely confused by what happened there.
You drill down to keys. I didn't invent that. That's what Dataset has done all along.
I'm just trying to find a way of representing the fact that there is a deeper level there, that we are at level 3, because it's a bit confusing to find the names of the moons.
Well, here, look. If you look down at the base there, it says keys. All moons, all keys.
Right. Yes, but perhaps there is something visual that
okay. So
immediately.
Somebody just annotated which level number.
Yep.
Well, I mean, what's wrong with on hover showing something in there?
We could do that.
Even the word keys in there. What to tell you what would happen if you clicked it? Oh boy, this is complicated.
You can also sort by keys. If you right click, if you can find the right place to. Yeah. Isn't that cool?
That is cool. That is cool. So in other words, there is annotation that goes into those things. But look, I agree that anything where there's kind of a dumb, okay, so here I presumably can also sort by keys.
Yeah, if you can find the right place to click. I mean, the cursor should change to a finger, yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. Now, I'm sorry, Jose, could you repeat what you were suggesting?
Yes, so I was comparing when we do matrix form of something of depth 3 or more, The fact that there are additional braces helps a lot in knowing that you are in a deeper thing. Here, if you look at the data set, in general, sometimes it's not so easy to know at which level you are, other than going and hovering and reading, etc. So I would like something which is more visual, immediate. And I think those cells that are the key to this orientation.
Well, they are, and those cells right now have no information in them.
Exactly. So perhaps a different color, or means.
I think that's going to look ugly, but I think, well, I see what you're saying. So one thing you could imagine is that the gray level could change for keys that are at a deeper level. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of course, it isn't always keys. It could be a pure. I mean, if I were to take, for example, let's say I do this. Let's say I say array, random, and I go like 666 here. Okay, now I go. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Silly me. Okay, and now I go data set of that. Okay, so now what the heck am I looking at? What am I looking at here? So I'm looking at what the heck am I looking at here? There's a 6 by 3, which expands to 6. Oh, and then there are 6 down.
Right.
If I went another level of 6-ness, well, here, let me just go 6868. Oh, that's not good. What did that just do? Why didn't it show me 6868?
I have not messed with Tally's heuristics for how to structure data sets.
I think you need to. This is
well, I agree, but that's a big project that I haven't tackled yet.
Okay. All right. Okay, fine. So that's not good what that did. I don't even understand what this is doing up here. Oh, I see. That's the number.
Right. That's item 2, row 2, column 5.
Right. So this is the sort of thing in which matrix form has a nicer way of helping or orienting.
So you're saying in the case of matrix form here, if I say matrix form of this,
probably, I mean, the numbers may be a bit too large here, but here it's very easy to know when you are at a deeper level by counting all these braces. So I was trying to find an equivalent orientation.
Yeah, which you could do with some kind of, if we had some kind of ledges indicating the outside where it got deeper and deeper.
Exactly.
Which is as such is a bit precious, but there might be a way of thickening the edges or something. Jeremy, Billy, any thoughts? Anybody?
Yeah, we had talked about that, and early on I proposed and I had a mock-up of that. I think it'd be a good thing to do. It's surprisingly difficult to do.
All right, but that's for the future. And I think the dead cells. So we've got 2 issues, which we need to note down. We've got dead cells. Which is what I'm calling those things that have no content, right? That are purely structural elements.
Right. If those were easy to identify, then you would know immediately that you are 2 levels deeper.
Well, in other words, if you had a clue in the dead cell,
right,
what level the dead cell was at. Like, for example, you could have something, you could have a little nick on that side, little thing there, and you could have 2 little nicks if it's deeper.
Right.
Like that. That seems fairly non-stupid, actually, to me. What do Jeremy and Billy think about that?
It makes sense to me. Yeah, I like it.
Is there any concern for getting confused with those things in text boxes that look similar, like sort of like that, and you click and drag it?
Not if you do a good job of actually drawing the iconography.
Okay.
what's the mark by moons? The bottom right?
I think that was just Billy probably adding a
Okay.
thing to
Yeah,
the
that's
resize
okay.
Yeah.
handle.
All right.
Okay. Question from Brian on the live stream. How would you add column or row headers for unstructured data, such as a list of values? Yeah, I mean, all of these headers are made from associations. This is a data set is a list of associations of lists. You know, it's a nested collection of associations and lists. And so all of these headers are actually keys in an association. And that's the way that's being done. And it's not just applique, you know, headers. They're really part of the data. Okay, drill down here. What's this? That's the same thing we've just seen, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you drill down to Mars, it just illustrates that drilling down preserves hidden items.
Okay, but in the future, what this is going to be is just a plus there and a dot there.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that is a very unfortunate tooltip. Look at it. It's disgorging
so small,
its entrails.
I can't read it. Types. Good grief. Well, that's obviously wrong. Okay. Yeah, I got a screenshot.
Okay. Okay, sorting. I don't think that's terrible. Yeah, I don't think that's terrible. We don't have file-back data sets yet.
Well, we will eventually. I'm just planning for the future.
Yeah, obviously it would have to be cached. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. Look, if we were doing, I mean, that's a thing for our database back end. Ed on our live stream is saying a dead cell represents 2 levels rather than 1. Isn't that correct? What's
Yes.
the story there?
Yeah.
Because
there's rows and columns. So that is actually at the 3rd level.
Right. It's like matrix form.
So Ed on the live stream is suggesting that it could represent, or Edwin, I don't know, is suggesting that it could represent both its horizontal and vertical level. Is that relevant?
I mean, there could be like a slash and 1 and 2 on the upper left, and then 3 and 4, which I think would probably be pretty ugly. But
no, I mean, the question is there a good metaphor with these slashes, for example, to indicate its, I'm so confused, it's column depth and its row depth, basically.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're talking about. So
it could be little arrows, like a coordinate system. So you put 2 or 1 depending on how many levels you are adding. No, I was thinking something like a small vertical arrow.
You know, Jose, you can draw. Just go to the header and go to more and go to the annotation tools.
Oh, you know. Where should I go?
Go under the more button in the Zoom header.
At the top, it says you're viewing Stephen Wolfram's screen, view options, and then second from the bottom above, follow presenter's pointer, annotate.
Annotate, I see. So 3 levels.
Well, what's the arrow down mean there? I don't understand that.
It's the direction of 1 level.
But that doesn't tell you what the levels are, right?
Yeah, what you need to know is that that dead cell is already deep in the drilling, so to speak.
Yes. So each of these arrows represents one level.
I know, but you've got to see non-locally all the arrows to know what level you're at. Whereas the whole point of the slashes is that just looking at that cell, you can immediately tell you're at level 3. And that is relevant if you've done drill down, then that you're still seeing that that was a level 3 drill down.
I see. Yeah, I was looking for something that indicates there is a new level. The parallelism is with matrix form. Each of these new braces is 2 levels.
I think this requires more thought. But I think the slashes are not a terrible place to start. And maybe what we can do...
How about like a light gray number? So above Mercury, there would be, in line with the Mercury, there'd be a 1. And then to the left of mass, there'd be a 2.
I think we want iconography, not numbers.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Let's see. Brian suggested putting numbers in there, but then a dot or other icon in each row and column that is a new level. I agree that having that thing on hover give numbers is fine. Although I don't know, I think the numbers. I'm still a little confused about what this is doing here anyway. I mean, so.
I don't understand how the arrows help. I mean, what's that tell you more than?
No, I think that, look, slashes just saying it's a deeper level, how deep that level is, how deep that thing is, that seems relevant. But I agree that it'd be nice to know the horizontal depth. So I'm a little confused. It requires more thought. Chris, I think you need to think about it because and Jose, if you can clear your annotations, that'd be good. Otherwise, when I scroll, they'll still be there.
Maybe the design team can think about it.
Okay, dynamic data set.
So dataset was kind of broken within dynamic or manipulate. It's not anymore. It's fully functional.
Good for you. Is there anything more to say about it?
No.
Okay, great. That's really good.
So this is what we were just talking about, that there's no target to hit in those blank cells.
Dead cells, we can call them.
Yeah.
Okay. Could we use, so if the data set is for planet data, and then the thing like Phobos, Deimos, or astronomical names, could we add that information into the data set?
No. All you have is what you have. This is just a random example. This data set could be, turtles captured at a beach or something. I mean, this is just one random example. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, interactive controls.
I think we've gone through that.
Drill down versus show more.
We've talked about that. That's
truncation function, truncation display function.
Okay, so this is not yet implemented. Well, actually, it's implemented in part. You can try evaluating that. I don't know if yeah, it works. So this gives you control over when and how things are truncated. And there's 2 options. One determines when, and the other determines
that's exciting,
how.
Because we actually need this for a completely different project. Tom's data structure visualization project needs exactly this. So in his case, you're displaying a linked list or something like that.
Yeah.
And, it's got elements that are giant. How do you elide those?
Right.
We were just planning a whole discussion about that.
I've been waiting to ask if this at all ties in, like when this ties in.
Well, we just found the connection. This seems complicated, Chris, and I'm not sure this is the right.
There's a bug there, but if you evaluate the one before that, makes the point. It just, that is it. In addition to the truncation function, it's specifying how to display the truncated things.
I understand.
That's not.
That didn't quite work.
Oh,
But
that's because I think, yeah, you don't have the latest build of the
Okay.
prototype. I just put that in.
okay. I think this is a little premature, this truncation stuff. I mean, you might want some default behavior, but there is some default behavior right now, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would be perfectly happy to put this off until post 12.1 because there's a big chunk of it that I haven't implemented yet. And it's gonna take
Okay,
some
but I
time.
think that this general problem of truncation and elision is something we need to address.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we might also address it for expressions in general, that you might have an expression that has parts that are elided and you click on them and it opens it out. We've wanted to do that for at least 20 years.
That would be a general mechanism, not specific to dataset, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have had designs for that, elided form and so on. I believe I had designs 20 years ago for that. So
It's useful for graphics and images too.
in what sense?
Really long graphics or images, weird aspect ratios, it'd be useful to have a truncation function for it.
It would be, yes, it would be very useful. So look, Chris, I think this should be a general thing which should be specifically applied to dataset. And I think we need a meeting sooner rather than later about it in connection with the data structure visualization project. So I think that's getting set up. So bring it up there, in my view, but I wouldn't worry too much about it for this.
Okay.
I mean, just do some automatic thing that's not totally terrible.
Right, it's there already. This is a way of specifying that parts of a data set are atomic items. So you reported this where evaluate that. It kind of screws up the display.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely horrible. I know what the issue is.
Right. So those allowed tiles things are actually individual, they're atomic things, but it thinks they're part of the data set. It thinks that two-level list is part of the data set structure.
I understand, but it is really a matrix, basically.
Yeah. So this is not yet implemented, but the proposal is to have atomic items where you can specify the level.
I'm not sure I like the name. I mean, how are you specifying it? So similarly, okay, really what this is it's some kind of wrapper around those items that says don't expand that. Don't display. It's a display issue. It's not so much atomic in the sense of, a map and other drill down of that kind. Boy, it's so confusing. We have a notion of things like this in this physics project. Never mind. It's really confusing between what Democritus thought atoms were versus what atoms became in chemistry versus what atoms are here. It's really confusing. Okay. I don't think atomic items is the right name for this, but I understand the concept, and I'm not sure. So how are you referencing this? So this is basically like your other things. You are able to specify rows and columns in the same way that you can do for background and so on.
Yeah.
So it's like it would be red, or just don't break this down, so to speak.
Yeah.
What should this be called? I mean, I admit that, oh boy. See, the other problem is that by the time you got max items saying what the maximum number of items is, and
this kind of like leaves.
Yeah, where the leaf
leaves.
is. How deep the tree can go, which does sound awfully like atomic items.
Scalar items, non-array items.
Yeah.
It would only be
more like verbatim.
I don't know. It would only ever be needed for levels that contain lists or associations.
I understand. And Dataset right now does not have an allowed heads concept that would allow it to break down. I mean, let's say you had some other wrapper other than list. By the way, that would be a wonderful use for the dead cell, is indicating what, if there was a function f and you had nested f's instead of nested lists, you could imagine a dataset breaking that down.
Yeah.
And putting the f in the dead cell. But what could we do here? I understand the concept. By the way, Nicola on our live stream is reporting the fact that on Linux, you can't horizontally scroll with the mouse. Only vertical scrolling works.
Horizontal. I mean, you can't scroll a data set in previous versions horizontally. Is it scrolling something else?
I don't know. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I think this just didn't work previously. Okay, anyway, so atomic items. I mean, this is oh boy, I do not have a good name for this. Well, I'm admitting that so far atomic items is better than anything I'm coming up with. Anybody else got any thoughts here? Chris, did you consider other names for this?
No, I mean, the only one that's occurred to me is leaves.
Leaf items. So it will be leaf items, basically.
Yeah.
It's deepest items, basically, or where undrilled items. What would be the right term for that?
Data items?
No. That could be almost anything. It's things where you didn't break inside it. You didn't go
impervious items.
Max level items. That's awful. Impervious. I don't think that's not going to help anything. But I agree that that's. And is it the term items the right thing?
That's what's generally used, and I mean they're all of the options generally refer to item, unless there's a previous option like background that doesn't have item in the name.
So the idea is to specify the header, the path to where they all are. So you have to go one level deeper, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, the path to where everything is that can't be opened.
Yes. I was trying to compare. We have a similar situation in outer. In outer, there are some numbers at the end that say how deep you can go.
Yes, that's right. That's a very analogous thing, which we could one day turn into an option.
Yes, but it's a level. Here it's more than a level. Here is a full path to where they are.
Brian on live stream is suggesting indivisible items, which is better than atomic, I have to say.
Yeah, it's things that can't be split, can't be broken apart.
You know, indivisible items is really not bad. And doesn't get us into the whole Democritus, the legacy of Democritus type stuff.
What about the scalar?
No, that's the way too weird. I mean, scalar as in not vector. That's too weird. That assumes that there's some metric space hanging around or something. I would say indivisible items is the most promising that we've heard so far.
I was just going to look in a thesaurus to.
Could it be elementary?
No, because that again is could be simple.
Mm.
Unfortunately, max depth doesn't work because it's not a depth. It's an actual location.
Or the synonym undividable. But I think I like indivisible.
But okay, is it correct that what you are giving is indivisible items, or are you giving, as Jose is suggesting, some deeper thing? Well, let me understand that. So why are you putting that other all there?
It probably is not necessary, but if hover over one of the. So if you.
It's important because that makes the whole thing go one level deeper.
Well, I mean, if it would suffice to just say allowed, all the things in the allowed tiles level. I think you probably wouldn't need that.
Yeah, I don't think you need the all. I think the all is very confusing.
Yeah, I think so.
But then it's ambiguous, because what happens if allowed tiles contains lists of indivisible objects? How do I express that?
Well, then you would go one level.
Yeah, then you go one level more. So this is saying indivisible items. Okay.
How do you go one level deeper?
Hold on. To go one level deeper here, if we were doing this with backgrounds, right? So let's say we do the thing here where we say, how do I even get this thing out? Oh, that is the data set. Can I just go ahead and say, I hope I can, data set of that with.
No, you can't currently. You will be able to, but it's not implemented yet.
Okay, well, I can say first of that probably. Will that work?
You can try.
No, I don't think so.
Well, no, it's just going to take.
Well, the problem is that it doesn't have a.
But the data set is atomic.
Doesn't have a decent output form. Ah, it worked.
No, it didn't.
It took
the
just
first
row.
two. Actually, that worked just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'm saying is, you want to say, okay, so I claim that in your calculus of backgrounding, that if I say all and then allowed tiles, arrow pink. Okay, so I'm claiming that everything there, if everything there is indivisible, oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying
what if
that
you
I
want
need to be able to say each one of those is indivisible, right? So if I were to say this, that would be the same thing. It would be visibly the same thing. So yeah, you're right. You're right.
Perhaps what's needed here is precisely a combination with what Outer does, which is once you are at the level of allowed tiles, you say a number, which is how many more levels you would have to go until you find the atoms.
No, but you can say that here. All you do is allowed tiles all. Look, if I wanted to look here, if I say 3 all, that will do that, right? That will only go. That will go. Whereas if I'd said all, it's okay. I mean, it's a little funky that you do. It's not a level here. You're just specifying the alls down to the point where you get to the indivisible stuff.
Yep.
I think it's okay. All right, let's go indivisible items. Thanks to Brian on our live stream for that suggestion. Seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, please don't call it path. Display state. I would call this particular thing dataset display path, maybe. Something very specific like that. That reasonable?
Yeah.
And then dataset scroll position for your other hidden option.
Okay. So you said earlier you thought path should be exposed?
Yeah, and it could be later on with that name. Dataset display path is a perfectly okay name. So just put it in. You can consider it hidden or unhidden. I'm not sure. I wouldn't document it. Well, display path. Display state, display path. I would say that's possibly exposable. I wouldn't document these right now. We've got plenty of other stuff to figure out, but I would call it dataset display path, dataset scroll position.
So if they're not documented, should they appear on options of dataset?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
Is scroll position the right name, and what does it mean?
The position of the scroll bar thumb.
In counting in units of.
Scroll down to the third item.
Here.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. But I mean, in principle, you could say Earth and something else, right? But probably you don't support that yet.
No.
I was going to mention that. So what's the difference between path and position? Aren't they the same thing? It says that path allows keys.
Yeah, except that we don't have an efficient way to support specifying numeric positions instead of keys. If there were an internal function which I could give a key and get the corresponding numeric position, I could do it. Otherwise,
I think that was just asked for in the ILD meeting, and we agreed that you could put in something in the function repository, and we don't know how efficient it can be yet.
That would be very useful.
Okay. I think you are possibly its only potential user, but that's fine. All right, so let's talk about this for a second. The scroll position. Let's see, the path is telling you, the display path is telling you what panel is displayed.
Where you drill down to.
I mean, maybe its name should be dataset display panel. And then the other one could be dataset display scroll position. Very long, but at least it says what it is. Because one of them is where it's, what do you think?
Dataset drill down.
I don't like drill down. I think that's a very. We haven't used that sort of family of words at this point.
What I don't understand is why one is a panel, the other is a position.
Okay, because a panel.
But they could both be positions.
No, unless I'm confused by something. Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying, okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying the top levels are scrollable too. No, that's not right. It's not right. Because you can drill down. The question is, those levels, have they been drilled through and you are at a separate page or panel, or are they merely scrolled to?
I think what I'm saying is that the panel is specified through a path, which I still think is a position. It's just that it happens to support keys.
But it also is a panel. It's a question of what you're displaying. Are you displaying it as a separate panel, or are you displaying it merely by scrolling to that point?
Yeah, they're different concepts.
Right, because I mean, if I go click, this guy here, I'm going to go down to that different display panel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that as a display panel, as opposed to I'm on this display panel. Open that out. I don't know what that did. Why didn't that open all the moons? Well, anyway, let's assume it opened the moons. Then I would still have a scroll position with the moons. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Could it be dataset branch? It's the branch of the tree you're displaying.
Oh God, no. Nobody's going to understand that. Why do you not like display panel?
Because panel's a particular thing. It's not a Wolfram Language panel.
Isn't it? I mean, it could be. We need a name for those. I mean, it could be display page, but I don't like that very much. I propose dataset display panel, dataset scroll position, but you can consider them as hidden options for the time being.
Okay.
Could it be dataset cell?
Oh gosh, we've got those in notebooks. I mean, that's even more confusing.
Yeah.
What is it in a grid? What is the language used for grids?
Item. I mean, the cells of a grid are the items.
Yeah, I understand. But this isn't that at all.
No.
I think these are the decent names for now. Brian on our live stream is asking, is there a mechanism to put a scroll bar on a lower level? The answer is no. And the reason for that is we just think it's just irreducibly confusing. Is that a fair statement?
I think it could be nice. It's technical issues that have prevented me from doing it this far.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So I wonder whether that's a thing. I mean, when that's probably going to be some appearance elements mechanism. All right. Did we get to the end of the agenda?
There's one more. You would ask for annotated scroll bar thumbs so that it shows you where you are when you're scrolling, but we don't have the technology to support that.
Fine. Don't worry about it. But that is not the thing that's going to, especially when we've got those annotations at the bottom that say showing blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Should be just fine.
Okay.
All good.
All right. We made it through.
Okay. Is that everything that you know of for the?
Yes. Yep. It's everything that you need to give your blessing to.
Okay. It's wonderful stuff. Now let's make sure it's all efficient, and then let's make sure that we can back it with things other than pure in-memory stuff. And also, please make sure that the store in notebook. Okay, so remember, the way it's going to work is there's the store in notebook option, and then when you cloud publish the thing, or actually there really should be another option in addition to store in notebook, which is store in persistence location. See what I'm saying? So in general, right, there are multiple persistence locations that you could be using. Right, so if I say $persistence locations, persistence path here, right? I don't know if you know this whole mechanism, right? Those are the different persistence locations. Does this make any sense?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Now, what's interesting about these persistence locations, which we probably should bring up, is there isn't a notebook persistence location, but there could be. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. But are you suggesting that the store in notebook button should offer alternatives?
Yes.
Which would be the same for sparse array and everything else that uses.
I think so, because I mean, here's the thing. You could store it in the notebook, but you could also say, I don't want to store it in the notebook. I want to store it in a private cloud. So if I send this notebook to somebody, instead of it being a 100 megabyte matrix that I have to send as part of the notebook email, I've got my 100 megabyte matrix that's stored in the private cloud, and the person can retrieve it if they care.
That would be nice.
I think we have all the plumbing to do that. I think it's just a question of what the UI is for the store in whatever. So anyway, I think we have a meeting that's supposed to get set up, and Devin should check this about that topic.
Yeah, sure.
Persistent. And please, when we do that, can we bring up why there isn't a persistence location notebook?
Okay. Yeah, and wait, so this is all for Matt's thing, right?
I think Matt is the person. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Excellent. Beautiful. Wonderful. Onward. And I'm sorry. Table view. You're going to figure out. I mean, whatever. I guess we have another review of table view. Can you make sure you, Chris, are in the meeting about table view?
Okay. Who is arranging that?
Well, it'll be somewhere around John.
Okay. I'll ask John then.
Okay. I don't know who's PMing table. Maybe there is no PM for table view because it's purely within the front end group.
Then maybe Parth would know. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Would know.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And
Bye.
thanks to people on the live stream as well. Lots of very helpful suggestions. Much appreciated. Okay. See y'all.
Bye.